Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Lion update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. This podcast is presented by BetOnline. College football season is in full swing, but so is Major League Baseball's postseason. And BetOnline is your number one source for all your baseball wagering info with up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals also for the NFL and, of course, college football at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. Plus, BetOnline is everything you need to stay up to speed on each league championship series all the way through to the World Series. Head to betonline.ag today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. State of State is presented by BetOnline, where the game starts. Also, State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out the Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. And if you're looking for the perfect beer for Penn State football season, we've got you covered all season long with the State IPA. Special thanks to our friends at Funk Brewing for creating the best tailgate and game day beer for Nittany Lion fans. State IPA is available now at beer distributors, grocery stores, Funk's tap rooms, plus select bars and restaurants. Visit www.funkbrewing.com/beers/state-IPA to learn where and how you can get State IPA. Check out the link in the description of this podcast for more information. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome to State of State. I'm Justin King here with my compadre, my brethren, Derrick Williams, filling in for Tom Hannafin. Man, that's a rough one right there, man. 12-20 lost to Ohio State, man. What you thinking, Derrick?
Hey, you know what? Defense came to play, but the thing is, brother, I just can't, every year it's like, hey, these two games, are we okay with being in third place? These are our two games that mean the most in the Big Ten. You know what it's like playing Ohio State. You know what it's like playing Michigan. Like, this is our talent versus their talent. It's going to be on the same level, not like any recruiting gaps or anything like that. It's, hey, we strap up our pads, you strap up your pads, and we go at it, And I was fortunate to get 2 wins out of it, but these are the games that matter in the Big Ten. It's not a big – we're all on the same side because you're not going to see them again in the Big Ten, championship. You got to win.
No, that's 100% facts, man. Especially like Tyler said, man, this is unacceptable. Like, at the end of the day, it's really hard to go into a game when you're playing a top 3 ranked team in the country and hold them to 13 points with, I don't know 4 minutes to go in the game. And to not have any momentum on offense and just having the firepower that we do have. Some questionable calls, but this is one of those losses that hurts, man. Like, to be completely honest with you.
most definitely, it's one that hurts because you know how pivotal it is in the season of what you want to accomplish. Ultimate goal here is to get to the national championship, just to win. Second place, third place, it isn't good enough, right. So we gotta figure that out.
And especially we're coming in with all the expectation this year, right? Like, you talk about, we've been talking about Drew, just the lack of turnovers, but you think of something that Bruce Arians used to say, and it comes back to the reminiscent of the conference last week when the guy was saying just throw it deep. But it's like that no risk it, no biscuit mentality where got to start taking shots and not just playing so conservative to where, the defense just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. Drew was 18 for 43, 191 and 1 touchdown. Like, it's a pretty tough sledding on offense. And
Well, and the thing is, a lot of that was in garbage minutes too. Just to be honest. So you can look at the numbers. You can say they had one touchdown. I mean, I at before the last drive, we had six. I think it was 7 total yards on this in the second half, and that's very unacceptable. You notice, Justin, like when you're planning out games, you have shot plays. Like, hey, we're going to take 5 or 6 shot plays a game. If it's an interception, if it's a PI or whatever, but we got to blow the top off the coverage. Like we got to take the shot.
You're 100% right. And the one thing that we can take from a positive standpoint is the defense, right? I know we keep harping on how elite the defense has been. And even though we look at the receiving yards for Marvin Harrison or just him having the game that he did have, it's mistelling because I feel like the defense did a great job containing him and everybody else on the offense, right? Like hitting open zone coverages and crossing routes running. They ran a lot of mesh concepts, but I felt like they played lockdown defense at the beginning of the game. Daquan Hardy was making a lot of plays. Johnny Dixon was making a lot of plays. Lost you a little quick bit. And until the end, I mean, even Kalen, like they were challenging them. Like all those guys were out there competing, but just towards the end of the game, I mean, McCord went 22 for 35, 286 and 1 touchdown. I mean, he worked for those, but like, it's so hard to play defense when you're not getting any help from the offense. What's something that you think you could see from the offensive receivers? I mean, that can lead to some more production or creating separation, I guess, against the defender.
Well, you got to think this too. Right now, we got to get Drew moving around a little bit more. Right now, those guys were in cover 1, 0. Sometimes they'll trick them, but a lot of it was man-to-man. There's some man-to-man beaters that we can do. And then one of the biggest man-to-man beaters is, hey, if no one's spying the quarterback, just show that you can run a little bit. You know what I mean? Make up some yards there where we got to take one guy off or do some different things there. As a receiver, I mean, these are the type of games you want because it's you. I mean, it's me against you. And not to say it this way, with Marvin Harris, a lot of the times too, we were playing man-to-man. So some of the best routes in the world, and you know this too, is crossing routes against man-to-man. A DB hates it. A DB hates going all the way across the field trying to check someone. And with Marvin Harris right now, you know what I mean? Like, as a receiver, what's the magical number for you to say I balled out?
Right.
100.
Right.
I got 100.
Let's take it to the comments real quick, but somebody that would definitely know what it means to like no risk and no biscuit. Former Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, Daryl Clark, jumped into the comments. We weren't aggressive. We would have DC. Shout out DC, the man that would know. We weren't aggressive enough downfield. So from like a former big time quarterback, I mean, you play with Daryl. When you're having the mentality of taking shots down the field, we heard the announcer, or not the announcer, but the reporter last week asked James, like, will you just throw it deep? Was there ever a time where you and Daryl and Dion and all you guys, I mean, we're just like, look, man, we got one-on-one, like just bomb it away. I don't care what the coach says. Like, how is that mentality of attacking the ball down the field?
You know, one thing I will say is Drew is young, but I'll tell you this right now, this game right now, I mean, it's a big business. So young, old, or whatever, I'm not making excuses of that. But one thing I can say about someone like Daryl is if we got one-on-one coverage, I don't care if we're locked up or anything like that. We drop the ball, we get pass interference. He knows, hey, take that shot. You know what I mean? So with Dion, with myself, with Jordan, he was looking downfield, you know, and some of his reads were you got to look down and work yourself back up, you know. So he did a good job of that. You know, so I mean, it's just some things, and I definitely say this. We played very conservative, and to be honest, conservative. We've been playing that all year. We just haven't been going against the talent that matches up with us.
Right. I mean, there's somebody in the comments that just said that Frank. We'll just show it real quick. Frank Whipple offense was horrid. Play calling was so vanilla, and I have to agree with him. I mean, I don't feel like we stretched the field. I mean, there were some times where we got involved, the tight ends involved, but even from like the trick plays and what we got out of that, I guess you would say that's opening up the play column, but not really when you don't establish any level of identity against a team like Ohio State. Like you said, when you're playing against talent like that, it starts to show. Like Ohio State didn't pull out some genius game plan or like exotic offense. Like they were
Let,
running mesh,
let,
they were running wheel
let, let,
routes.
let's be clear about this. Ohio State is down this year. It's not
Right.
like a Ohio State that they're down right now. Like nothing really was exciting about them either. But the thing is that hey, they had a guy on the outside, and even with what's number one's name, our number one receiver.
Keandre Lambert-Smith.
I mean, with Keandre, you got to take a shot. That's your number one guy. Take a shot. And I think that was the difference with Marvin Harris. I don't care. Like the quarterback that Ohio State has. I mean, you got to take a shot with him. Keandre needs those shots too. If you're going to call him number one, you need to get those shots.
No, that's a great point. And we think about Drew having a great year and managing the game well. We've known Bo Prabula to have a lot of production when he's come in the game. So just take it back to the comments here for a little bit. But I think a change to Prabula would have been a good idea. Maybe create a spark, at least change it up some. How do you think they could have approached the game using just more of a dual threat quarterback look to give Ohio State I guess a different change of pace on offense?
Look, here's the thing. I think that Drew is a big time talent, right? I think the offense that we're running and the offense that we've run for years, you need a dual threat quarterback. Trace McSorley, Sean, and all that. Those guys I mean, they were dual threat quarterbacks, but it's a lot of dual threat quarterbacks out there that, can do a lot of things right there. And I think that we got to figure out the system that fits Drew. It was different even when I was playing. Like it was different from Mike Robb to Morelli to Derrick Clark. Like all of them were big time talents, but the system that they had to play in, that's what fit them better. It's got to be, you got to try to fit, like have the right fit at quarterback when you're there.
No, that's 100% fact. Going back to another comment, Penn State needs to go all out next week on Michigan. It's going to be very tough. I mean, we got Indiana coming up. I mean, got to kind of clean this up on the offensive side of on the board. I mean, it's one thing like when coaches are in there drawing up things, is you do the self scout and then you look at your production. It's like, oh, we've been averaging 40 points a game by doing it this way, and then you come out with, like you said, a team that's talented. And I mean, the vanilla play calling or just no risk it type of mentality, I mean, not really giving you the productivity or the points that you're looking for. So moving up to a team like Michigan, what do you think they need to like iron out before they play against a physical dominating opponent like Ohio State or Michigan coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Man, I think right now, some even with the guys and somebody in the receiving core, like, I think you kind of got to go with the attitude of, hey, bro, you got to throw me the ball. Give me some opportunities. Right now, it's not a spark. It's not fun to watch. You know what I mean? It's very conservative. So somebody's got to step up where we got to figure out, how we can create a spark on offense, because if the defense is holding people to 13 points or, 20 points, it's supposed to win. You're supposed to have the guys and supposed to take the things where you're going to win, especially against those top programs like that.
Yeah, with that being said, I mean, at the beginning of the game, they seemed to be running the ball in an efficient manner. I feel like at one point I was like, Nick Singleton's going to break one here. I mean, he was getting into the secondary. He was engaging blockers 4 or 5 yards down the field. And then they kind of abandoned it to have some movement passes and things of that nature early in the game. From my perspective on the defensive side, I don't know if they just felt like it was loosening up. From a receiver standpoint, when you're successful running the ball, what do you think the mentality is from an offensive perspective to kind of abandon that a little bit and go to straight passing?
And here's the thing, in those type of games right there, especially, your Ohio States, Michigans, usually they come down to certain drives and periods. As a receiver in those type of games, you understand, like, hey, if something working, we got to go. We got to get this win. I'm not looking for my numbers, not looking for anything. If I'm gonna get my number called on it, I got to make my play. But if running's working, I need to block my ass off. You know what I mean? And to be honest, that I think it was like in the second quarter when our running game kind of opened up a little bit, and we caught Ohio State out of position. Probably, I think it was 2 or 3 times in that drive that kind of sparked our running game. So at that point in time, we needed to make a play. Like we needed to, we needed to get a touchdown. We needed to get something right there to flip, just the momentum right there.
No, that's a fact. I mean, they came out. I agree with Derrick. Offense needs to match the quarterback. If the receivers aren't downfield threats, then a mobile quarterback helps things open up. I mean, that's again our guy Rob giving just some heads up to what you were saying about the dynamic of having a dual threat quarterback. And even with that, I mean, I think that even from the beginning of the game, like just the way we were playing defense at an elite level, the field goals were keeping us in the game. But how do you overcome going 0 for 11 on third downs throughout the whole game and expect to be a top 3 team at the end of the day, and not to just rag on the offense, because it's hard to not talk about anything else from that standpoint. But was there anything from the defensive side of the ball, Derrick, that kind of stood out to you? I mean, positive or negative?
Look here, like I said, when you're playing against a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., man, you got to take your chances. It was sometimes on there, and I'm not a DB. You are. It was sometimes we was 3rd and 4, and you're playing 8 yards or 9 yards back, and you just giving up quick passes. And the quarterback's first read is going to be him right now. But the D line, all those guys, they did good. And like I said, it's a thing where we held them all the way through the fourth quarter, 13 points. We're supposed to win. We're supposed to help you guys out. Going 0 for 10, first of all, we're getting more injuries. We're getting you guys tired. Y'all not getting no rest. Like, a lot of that is on our side right there.
No, that's a fact. And I mean, you talk about circling this game all season. I know I've been saying it's one of the biggest games of James's tenure at Penn State, and as it should have been, right? When you talk about just the expectations going into the game, where our talent level is from just a full team perspective, and it is disappointing to have the expectation, the stage set, and then come out and have that type of offensive performance. And not that, I mean, yeah, it was pretty bad. It was hard to watch, just from being so explosive.
Very, very hard to watch. And then as alumni, as a fan of Penn State, you got to figure out, man, when are we going to stop being a second-tier team? And I'm saying Penn State's a second-tier team right now. You know what I mean? We're happy with being 3rd in the Big Ten. You know what I mean? Every year it's like, oh, we went to the Rose Bowl. Yeah, we went to the Rose Bowl, but they paid us well, but we were 3rd still. And that's happy. You know what I mean? Right now, if you really think about Ohio State, if they lose to Michigan, Ryan Day might get fired. You know what I mean? That's a tier 1 program. And not saying that about Franklin, but we got to take that step as far as being able to compete with Michigan and on a consistent thing. And we beat Michigan some, but we gotta be able to beat Ohio State and convince, like, in a great way, not just like off of a block field goal, but like, hey, we're beating them.
You're 100% right, because I saw a tweet earlier. Someone had said on the media side, like, "Oh, this is the day that Penn State becomes an elite program," and it was like a gloating thing. But in the whole comments, it was Ohio State fans like, "Well, that's the greatest compliment ever." Where we like base our whole existence off of beating them, where they're just kind of like, "It's a big game. We beat Penn State. It doesn't really change too much about us when we beat them, but for us to beat them, we're considered an elite program." Because I always felt like we matched up well. I mean, from just a talent standpoint against Ohio State. What do you think? I mean, when we played there, right? It was our class went 2-2 against Ohio State. What do you think this program needs to do, or what obstacles do they need to jump over to be on that same tier 1 level as like people view Ohio State and Michigan?
Oh man. You know what? I think that's a hard one, because it's so much of just the little things that matter to beat those guys. You know what I mean? It's so even sometimes that it comes down to one possession. One thing that I can say, when we was there, the times that we beat Ohio State, the times that we beat Michigan, and again, I've had great quarterbacks and all of that. We had quarterbacks that fit our whole personnel when we beat those guys. We had the offense all the way around that. We if running and passing wasn't there, we had a quarterback that can break one out for 20 yards. So At that point in time, we just had all of the pieces in the right place. It wasn't a question, and we put our talent against theirs, and we showed up on the times we beat them there.
That's real because like we talk about the talents of showing up or expecting to beat them. It's not it's obviously a big game because you respect your opponent, but it's like there is an expectation to win based on like how we play the game.
Yep.
Put this up. Lex has said we need some receivers. Like we have one receiver front with Keandre who's been making plays. We had a transfer in of Dante Cephas, Malik McClain. We had just different guys coming back. Are there any receivers that you've seen that need to kind of step up?
You know what? Here's the thing, and I played receiver, played in the NFL, and everything like that. Receiver is the most expendable position in football, right? Because you can make a receiver look really, really good if you're ahead of the defense. So you think about even in the NFL. Let's think about this: the talent that comes from receiver position. They come from D2 schools, smaller schools, all this other stuff. So these guys never were looked at as big-time wide receivers. But let's put them in position to make plays. So I think also it's not just the receivers, it's putting guys in the right position to make the plays. We're doing all that check with me when we're looking over there and everything like that. Put your guys in the right positions to make plays.
Right.
I just think about like guys like, let's say Antonio Brown. He came from Central Michigan. Nobody really heard of him in the NFL. Nobody heard him when he was in college. But He got in the NFL and was in a right system. So we got to figure out our system as far as what's going on and to get these guys open.
It works hand in hand from the offensive coordinator to the quarterbacks to the play calling to the strategy to, like you said, and then to the actual personnel traits and them being able to make plays. There were some moments in the game where even the announcers were bringing up the blanket coverage from Ohio State. Obviously, we seen Penn State kind of playing elite defense, fourth down stops, pass breakups. Daquan Hardy playing a big time game, Johnny Dixon, all those guys making plays. Zaki Wheatley with the fourth down stop on there. But when they were talking about Drew Aller and the way he was playing or just the lack of throwing down the field, it was a very balanced thing from where they're seeing the all 22 film from the press box of like the receivers are covered. Because sometimes from the TV copy, you can't really see what's happening, or if they're open and like the receivers just missing it. But I think there was a combination of everything where receivers weren't getting open, and when they were getting open, Drew wasn't as accurate as he was. What did we go 19 for 40 something today? Like I gotta find the box score, but when you have that type of a situation, man, like again, it is hard to beat a team with like Ohio State, like you said, even on a down type of year, and that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said, what coverage did you see them play a lot of, right, when you were out there?
Ohio State?
Yep.
Or Ohio State. I mean, today they were playing a lot of man coverage. Like they were manning up across the board.
Just think about what happens when you go 3-by-1 and you put them tight in a bunch and you're playing man and they got to go through all that traffic to find a receiver. Just like they were doing with Marvin Harris on the touchdown that he did. Or whatever it is like that. What happens? You got to go through traffic. That wasn't nothing that Marvin Harris did. That was nothing, right? That was the play call that went through traffic and gave him the ball and gave him the opportunity because, that's just how it works.
And even so on the Penn State side, like you're 100% right. I think early on when they were going man against Marvin Harrison on the crossing routes, I think they were doing a pretty decent job because they had DBs that can chase them down and tackle them in the flat.
Yep.
When they started getting the linebackers and having to play a little softer on the back end, whether it's from the running or trying to stop the run, it seemed like he started getting picked up on the linebackers and getting them situated into the passing game, whether it was the outside rail route where DeLuca was supposed to continue to move up with him. There was one where Abdul Carter had the crossing route, and I think at the end of the game, he crossed another linebacker's face where it's just like you said, finding those matchups to put your personnel in a position to win. And I think that's the coaching part. And then there's the part where, like you said, you play man to man. And if a team plays you man to man, now that's on the player and the talent to beat the other player, right? Like coach can help with, crossing routes, rubbing routes, but like, you got to get away from the guy. You got to get off your jam. You got to make sure you do the rub right, rub route and do all those things because we had a good system. But like you, Derrick, Dion, everybody that we play with, I mean, we're playmakers, and you guys had the mentality of, oh, if it's 1-on-1, I'm eating, and I'm not going to be stopped. Like,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Like, so we see that happening, and it gets kind of, I mean, it was just frustrating to watch. Matthew, we got 30, not having over 30 carries today is borderline criminal. We mentioned it earlier about getting away from the run game because it seemed like they were attacking them with the nice physicality, doing what they wanted to do on offense. Like I said, there was a little spurt there where it seemed like Nick was going to break one, but to kind of veer away from it and get a little cute in the passing game seemed to play right into Ohio State's hands. Like it didn't seem like Drew had that many clean pockets, had to stay with the quick passes, and they were getting penetration in the backfield.
And then the thing too is sometimes with those, even with running with the carries and stuff like that, if it's a defense that's going to load 8 in the box, you can't run the ball. Like you got to throw it out of there. And they were daring us to throw, really. You know what I mean? If you got 8 in the box and we're doing check with me, my knowledge of football, I'm not going to run into something I can't block right now. I need to pass the ball. You know what I mean? So we gotta. You got also, I understand run the ball 30 times or whatever it is like that. But when you're in that game and you're looking at 8 in the box, usually that's telling you to throw the ball, so we got to do that.
No, that's a complete fact because you have to, just have to be productive in those things. And then a lot of the fans are talking about the vanilla play call and having an attack mode. But like you said, you have to make plays. Like my guy here said, Paul, at the end of the day, football is a pretty simple game. If you can't score TDs, you won't win it many games. And that is honest to God truth. The field goals kept us in the game from the first half and even through the second half. And like at the same time, Ohio State's offense wasn't just super explosive. They scored 13 points at the end of the fourth quarter. Like at Penn State's defense, that's a frustrating loss to have, but like you should feel good about keeping an offense like that under wraps to that point. But you have to look to the offense and just understand, like, we need some help out here, man. Like to take the like, man, you know what I mean? Because it's bad. And the one thing that I don't like when we play teams like that is like the trick plays. Like, how do you feel as an offensive player when you run trick plays multiple times and it's like they kind of?
You got to think I was almost Mr. Trick Play.
But they work though. But they work. They work most of the time.
but you gotta. First off, man, you gotta set it up. You know what I mean? At least set it up. So even that 2-point play that we just tried to do at the end of the game, it was like, okay, all right, we're gonna throw a double pass for this 2. Man, go and get the ball. Like, call your best play, not a trick play right now.
Yeah, I was in the group message. All the homies was on there. We kind of laughed at that one because I'm always kind of the coach apologist. Like, man, you don't know what they might have saw. They might have seen something like thinking from the coach's kid. But when I saw the double pass, I was like, nah, man, we ain't doing that right now. Because I'm talking stuff I'm on TV, man. Like, this is a big game. We talking stuff, and it's just like, come on, bro, help these guys out. Don't make them be out here looking kind of sus with that.
we got to help them. And here's the thing, man. Like, what is coming down, because that was a frustrating loss. What it's coming down to is every week you see these guys saying 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. And everybody's going to start saying, 1-0. What about when we play Ohio State and Michigan? Like, come on now. I understand. You can throw the win up, the W. We just beat some garbage. But 1-0. Hey, what happens when we play the talent that's with us now? Like, we got to start moving forward now.
That is the case, man. And like you said, 1-0 keeps it process oriented and keeps the objective close. But like you can't ignore, like, all right, what is it 1-0 when we play them? Because I know you got homies that went to Ohio State. I got homies that went to Ohio State and Michigan.
Be realistic. Like, understand this. We understand we want to win every game, but you circle Ohio State and Michigan like, dog, this kind of tells us our season right now. We got to be right.
Nah, man, we got another fan question for you. Derrick, welcome to the show. Despite the horrible loss, do you have any hopes on the rest of the season against Michigan especially, or are you just skeptical as I am right now?
My honest truth is, like, we lost. Do I have any hope to come in second? Nah, we try again next year.
So now we're back to the point of there's no way that we can even look in getting into a playoff or even winning the Big Ten if Ohio State slips up. Because I don't feel like Ohio State's safe the rest of the year. To be completely honest,
they will lose probably to Michigan. But the problem is the way that we just showed up on offense, and they was like, "Let me put this in college football playoffs." You get no views. You know what I mean? No views. So let's try this again next year.
Yeah, man. I wasn't, dog. That's real, man. I mean, because you're right. Now you're getting into the viewership of like how the fans want to see what's going on. But based on the stats, they're coming in the game 40 points a game. Like, you're right though, because it hurts when I see people.
If I'm in the 8th grade playing against a kindergarten, I should put 40 points up again too. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that we played West Virginia. Who did we just play? UMass. Great. Good job. You know what I mean? But if my talent is that much better, that's what I'm supposed to do. Now let's go where the talent is the same. You gotta do it.
Got one from take it to the comments. Brian Reed, why didn't we mix in Bo with how much Drew was struggling? That's a good question to be completely honest, because it just didn't seem like we were getting any rhythm in the type of offense that we were running. Derrick mentioned earlier that we've had success in the past with dual threat quarterbacks, whether it was in the past with Mike Robb, transition to Morelli back to Daryl Clark, or even Trace McSorley coming from Hackenberg to Trace McSorley and the different backups to Sean Clifford to now. And it's a different type of offense. Having that multidisciplinary guy back there, I mean, you get out of trouble, man. The pocket was collapsing and Drew couldn't go anywhere. And even just changing up the defense. I mean, as a defensive player, having a quarterback or playing an offense that brings in a dual threat quarterback and a passing quarterback just keeps you on your heels and not let you just tee off. I feel like what Mike Yurcich has been doing well all season from keeping the defense honest. I mean, we know it hasn't been the same type of talent as Ohio State because they challenged those guys today, but that like they were teeing off on Penn State. It seemed like they had a beat on whatever that they had going on. They didn't respect the receivers. They were manning up across the board and just like, hey, try to beat us with this game plan because we got the same type of effort that you guys do.
Do you ever think, let's say a D coordinator is like, hey, if they're going to beat me, they're going to beat me this way. So I'm going to shut down the run, which they didn't do a great job at. Like we said, we saw a drive where they were running the ball, but I thought that Ohio State was daring us to throw the ball. And if somebody was going to beat us, they was going to say, okay, we got this young quarterback in, yada, yada, but he's going to have to beat me with his arm. And, I mean, that's how sometimes you got to come into the game. You know, and for us at Ohio State, we kind of shut down the run too. They didn't really run the ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe I would have said, hey, if somebody's going to be, if it's going to be somebody that doesn't beat me, Marvin Harris not going to beat me, I'm going to put 2 people on them just like they used to do on Calvin, and we're going to test everybody else. We're going to test everybody else out.
No, that's a fact. Hey, Cross say got me dying, man. So real. They're coming with that real talk about this football game. At the end of the day, I mean, you see that. What's your interpretation or what's your eval of how Kalen King did against Marvin Harrison? I know he was traveling around with him throughout the game, and I mean the numbers.
What's Caleb King's?
Caleb's 4.
I mean, but what's his
projection?
Yeah,
first round.
What's Marvin Harris' projection?
First round.
How many yards he had?
$162 for 11 catches, $162, 1 touchdown.
Caleb King gonna sleep real good tonight. that means you lose that one, brother. You lose
Hey,
that. I mean, plain and simple. Like, sometimes some things ain't your fault or whatever. But when he lined up, how many did you win? How many did you lose? But when you're looking at the numbers as a receiver, I balled out when I had 100. Everybody, hey, when I get 100, I balled out.
don't really
So
care where it comes from because
don't care where it come from.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get the other side of that because I play against receivers where I felt I had good game and like they had yards, but I'm like, man, I had 5 pass breakups. I did this, they caught hitches and did whoop de woo. I feel you from a receiver standpoint, but from the other side, I do think he played a solid game from a competitive standpoint. Marvin Harrison got off, and he got off. Kudos to Ryan Day and their offense for finding different modes because all his chunk plays came against playing against a linebacker. So I do get it from a receiver standpoint. Y'all got to get y'all's and y'all talk like that.
But you got to understand the setup for it. What happened was in the first quarter, they was like, oh, Caleb King is traveling around with Marvin Harris.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the broadcast.
That was a set. Yep, that was a setup.
So as a fan, now when you hear that, and maybe he did, he got a lot of that was against linebackers. But as a fan, when you hear that, now what you're saying is, damn, Caleb King is following him around the whole game. What is he doing? Might not be his fault, but it was just a setup with that.
No, that's a fact. That's a definite fact. Here's a question. We'll take one from Matthew. Did the atmosphere look too big for Aller, in your guys' opinion? I can jump in from there. I don't know if the atmosphere looked too large for him. I think they were just smothering him, and he started to look like a first-year starting quarterback for the first time all year, where he didn't have clean pockets. So he's throwing the ball. He wasn't as accurate as he typically is. I mean, they were having a hard time creating separation from the receiver, not to beat a dead horse with that, but I think that started to get to him a little bit, right? And especially when you're trying to run the ball and get away from that a little bit. This is probably the worst pass percentage he's had. I mean, all season. We're still stuck. I mean, 18 for 43, 191 yards, 4.4 yards per catch. It's like a running back, man. You know what I mean? Like that's tough sled. Nick Singleton have averaged 5 yards a carry. So when you start looking at those different type of things, to you, did the atmosphere look too big, or did it look like things were just breaking down all around?
Look, guys, I mean, here's the thing. State College, the atmosphere is amazing. I know that you're fans, but it's amazing. Like, to be totally honest, and I know I'm a Penn State fan. Playing in the Horseshoe is not that bad. It's not really crazy. Like, I mean, if you really wanted to know Wisconsin, yeah, I can get that. But the Horseshoe is really not that bad. I don't think the atmosphere got to him. I think again, right now he's a young guy. They were daring him to throw. And they were, it was a lot of pressure that was there. I think it could have been some things. And I think we were trying to get the ball out of his hands quicker than, and to help him out. But all that, the atmosphere of being away and all that other stuff at Ohio State it's honestly really not that bad.
No, that's a great point. I don't think Ohio State or Michigan are that crazy away. It's beating the players and the coaching. Yeah. Bring back the spread HD offense. What do you think this offense would look like or would need to do to kind of emulate that spread HD offense that you guys used to run?
Man, we got to Daryl. How old is Daryl Clark? About 40.
They got you. They got
about 40. But he can still run and throw that thing. You know what I mean? We had some good guys that was in there. Me, I'm too old for that.
No, that's funny.
But
like
I think right now, just got to find creative ways to get your playmakers the ball.
You're 100% right. And even when you say like creative ways, I think of when we used to do those different spread offenses, and I would run the wheel route and it would be a lot of matchup situations where get on a nickel, get on a linebacker, and those were the type of opportunities where we made a lot of chunk plays. And then the fact that we had 4 guys that can do it and had the mentality of like, oh, once we get the ball, we can threaten the defense and stretch it out a lot. I mean, you have to attack it. No risk it, no biscuit. It does start with the mentality first and having guys that can move the sticks and do that.
I got a question for you, and look, I know I was an ex-player, and I don't want to talk about players, but this one kind of irked me a little bit. Who's the dude that scored the touchdown at the end of receiver?
Caden Saunders.
You know, they reviewed it. They put the camera on him. He was smiling and stuff. I would have been mad as hell losing it. And looking at him and smiling, bro. Like, what the hell are you smiling for?
I want to say he's from Columbus too.
Oh, all right.
So he's at. So maybe he's at the crib. Like I got it. I think he's from Columbus.
Well, today it ain't no smiler. You go out to get back on there. It ain't no smiler.
No, you're right though. No, you're 100% right. I didn't see that because I heard it like, oh, somebody scored a touchdown, and that whole thing went through. But I want to say he's from Columbus or somewhere in Ohio.
Now, what can change is that type of attitude right there.
He is from Columbus. Derrick, he was. Right. Oh, don't tell me he was double. You called him double agent it from Columbus.
Look, that type of attitude, we could change a little bit. You know what I mean? That right there, like the moral victory and all that other stuff, bro. We supposed to be a tier 1 team. We losing. Look, we're gonna have to win on something. Something's gonna have to make me feel better. And us losing and stuff like that ain't sit right with me. And I know I'm a competitor and all that other stuff like that, but I'm not gonna smile after somebody then spanked me a little bit.
I'm with you 100%. Like Matthew said, I don't know if these kids got the killer instinct you guys had, D. Will. I mean, that is real. There is a mentality, and when you're coming to the game and like what guys worried about, I don't know if it's an NIL thing, you get your views up, Instagram, but it's like, yo, we're out here competing. Like there's a level of like there's the business side, but like you said, like man, we can't be doing that. You know what I mean? Like
caught him on TV with the pearly white.
Caught him on TV, like
the pearly white. He looked like yes.
Maybe that was his first career touchdown. I don't know, but I completely.
No, it was his first. It was his first.
I still agree with you though. I still completely agree with you. But man, Nick Singleton only. I mean, dang, I'm looking at these box scores trying to keep up with the comments. But 9 carries, 48 yards. Keandre Lambert six catches, 52 yards. Penn State loses 12-20. I mean, the score doesn't look that bad. It's going to go across the screen, and national media is like, oh, it was a close fought game. So I think that keeps us in that. But when we're talking about the Big Ten media or just this region and understanding, like you said, being a third-tier team, like Chris from Penn State said, no disrespect to Manny Diaz and the defense, but if a team like Ohio State can dominate us, we're never going to be as elite as we want to be or forever destined to be third place. I agree. 2 things can be true, Chris. I would say that I don't think it has anything to do with Manny Diaz and the defense. I think what Derrick was saying is that you have an elite defense and a comparable offense to be able to win in college sports. Yeah. But regardless of that, we will still be in third place if we can't score points against a team like Ohio State or beat a team like Ohio State, because I think we play well enough on defense, and even from some different areas on offense. The offense was that was bad. That was hard to watch.
And to be honest, this was our year to do it, because next year the Big Ten's not going to look the same. So we gotta figure it out and make sure that this Michigan game is going to mean a lot for their trajectory of, honestly, pretty much our future in Penn State, because USC, Oregon, all those guys are coming in. We need to make sure that we at that top tier there.
No, that's a great point. Another point from Chris. Convinced that the refs were against us. You know, you playing away, you got to deal with the refs. I think the scoop and score wasn't flagged and would have won in OT. And that's interesting.
Chris, I don't mean no harm, bro. That was a hold, bro. No. I'm just being honest.
It was a hold. You're absolutely right, because like that was a killer moment for our defense and just the team in general. Because I think there was a moment where that play stands. Great play by Curtis Jacobs, scoop, score, Superman type play, goes back 70 yards. But to have a defensive holding and then come back and have another penalty, and then I think there was a third consecutive penalty after that, to where they were able to score. I think they still held up.
Now the personal foul with the election, like the late hit and all that, I can say that was questionable, because I think he was letting them go. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Now, the hold and all that. I mean, it was a hold, and right now we can't do that if we want to win right now. But the thing is, hey, at that point in time, they put Marvin Harris they put him in the slot. They moved him around, did everything like that. Like, kudos to them for that, but it was a hold on that one.
No, 100%. And I'm finished with this last comment here. Another one from our guy Matthew, who's been real engaged this whole time. And thanks for everybody that's been jumping on with live with us and talking a little bit about this hurtful loss. I mean, I know I've talked a lot of stuff, so my phone's blowing up with people trying to get their money for bets. But anyway, yes, but I want to beat Ohio State straight up, not because of a blocked field goal or defensive touchdown. I do understand. I think that's what Derrick was mentioning earlier. Was just like, yo, we play these type of guys. You have to win the matchups that you have and have that mentality that, we got to take it to these guys, right? Like, we're no risk it, no biscuit. Like, we're not going to beat them by being conservative in our approach. And so I do feel that where it's like, you don't want to win with blocked field goals or just some miraculous reception type of thing going on, but really beat them straight up and just show them where we are as a program. But I guess right now, time will still tell for the rest of the season and where we're at as an elite or great program. I mean, 6-1, that's a tough loss on the offense, but we got to clean up a lot of different things on offense. Receivers, we got to get involved. We got to have a bounce back game from Drew, getting ready for Ohio State. But before Michigan, got Indiana coming up, and clean up these different things that we got going on and try to make a run and still hit a big bowl game this year.
I understand Indiana's 1-0, but we got a practice game coming up before we play a real big game.
Hey, it all starts with the mentality, man. Like, that is a fact. Everybody, I really appreciate you guys for jumping on the live with us. And we are out of here. Thanks again, State of State, a Penn State football show. Me and Derrick Williams, check us out. And we'll have the preview show dropping this Wednesday. Me and Tom will get you guys ready for Indiana coming up.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, let us know what you think of the show on Twitter @TheKing1 and @TomHannafin. State of State is presented by Bet Online.